Welcome to Awesome Women, and I'm here today with Melissa Murphy, joining me from Galway. How are you, Melissa?
I'm great, thank you.
So you found out you were autistic 6 years ago.
That's right, yeah.
So
yeah.
What kind of changes did that bring in your life, or what was it like to find out you're autistic? That stage, this stage in our lives.
It helped explain so much of my childhood and growing up. It helped me realize all the things that I thought were normal were actually just normal for my family. Like my mother, anytime I did something strange, she'd be like, oh, no, that's totally normal. I was the same as that in your age. You know, I did the exact same thing. And then when I was worried about my children, she's like, oh, no, they're fine. Not walking until you're 2 is perfectly fine. And, you know, speaking like a grown up when you're 4 is completely fine. You know, reading books when you're 3, yeah, that's completely fine. And it is. I found out now that it actually is completely fine and it is normal. It's normal for autistic people and especially autistic women. Like I've now found other people who are like me, and that's brilliant. That is brilliant. It's not just my family anymore. It's loads of families. Like
global family.
Exactly, a global family. It's wonderful.
And that's brilliant. So you because you grew up with a mom, so you didn't know you were autistic. So you had a mom who just accepted the things that you did.
Well, I just realized now that my mom is autistic as well, and my granny probably was, and loads of uncles and aunts and grandparents, and then also probably my dad as well, and then all that side. So, you know, they found each other, and, you know, we thought that was just how people are. But then you go to school and realize everyone else is watching Neighbours and Home and Away, and you're watching Tomorrow's World and David Attenborough documentary. It doesn't really get you any friends if, you know, you can't gossip about neighbors and stuff. But yeah, so that's what we were like growing up.
Yeah. And so how did you realize you were autistic, or, you know, how did it come about?
Yeah, I was sitting, my son was having problems in school and things, and then we thought, yeah, autism was suggested. So he was having his assessment, and we were doing a parent questionnaire for the assessment. And every single question that they asked me, I realized I could give the same answer about myself. I mean, every single one. And then that was when the penny dropped. I was sitting there in the interview thinking, wow, these are very strange questions. Like, you know, I would give the exact same answer about myself. And then that was when I realized, oh, hold on a minute. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And tell me, like, what did you think autism was before? Had you ever heard of autism, say, before your son was going through?
Yes, I have a cousin who's autistic, and he's non-speaking, although he did speak until he was about 7, and then he just stopped. And I thought that was what autism was. I thought that you had to have a lot of needs and not be able to speak and just be like my cousin. And then after I realized I was autistic, I thought, well, I'm very different from my cousin. I'm like completely different. I'm nothing like those kind of autistic people. Oh, no. I'm a special autistic person, don't you know? And so are my children. And then I met my uncle, and we were talking about our kids, and my daughter had also been diagnosed at that stage. And it was my uncle who pointed out that my cousin and my daughter are actually really, really similar. You know, he was saying, wow, that's exactly what my son is like. So I realized then that just the whole functioning thing and all these different levels and this and that are meaningless, because underlying everything, they had so many more similarities. And it was a big eye-opener for me. Like I realized, wow, autistic people are all this one big, huge mass of people, and they're all similar to each other. They're all different to each other. Like there's no distinctions and levels, and, you know, yeah. So
none of us are better. I always say, like, we're all 100% autistic.
Exactly. It helped me get over myself. It really did, because I'm like, oh yeah, autism can be like my cousin, and it can also be like me, and it can also be like my children. And my children, like, they're both autistic and they're both very, very similar, and yet they sometimes complete opposites.
Yeah, because they're people.
You know? Because they're people, because everyone's like that. Exactly. So it's just, I think, since my children got diagnosed and then I realized I was autistic, it broadened my view of what autism actually is, you know?
Yeah, which is really important, because people do have this very narrow view of what it is, and these functioning labels aren't helpful to anybody. Yeah, but when you're diagnosed as well, you're kind of told these things, like, you know, if you're diagnosed with Asperger's, you kind of have this idea of what Asperger's is, that it's not,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, you know, so yeah, a lot. But so what is family life like? Because I mean, it must be kind of cool to find out you're autistic at the same time as your kids.
It's kind of, well, that part is great. Yeah, it's just we have such a great bond. We really connect. But when they're having a meltdown, I know exactly what it feels like, and I know not to go near them, for example, that they don't want to be touched. But then I know that when they've calmed down, that they actually do want lots of hugs afterwards. So I know that too, and they know that about me. They know if I'm having meltdown, keep away from mommy, and then give me lots of hugs afterwards. So we're able to help each other in a lot of ways because we know what it's like. We have personal experience. But it can also be very chaotic, like if three of us are having meltdowns at the same time,
Yeah.
or if we have different sensory needs, like someone is really loud and can't help being loud, and the other person really doesn't like loud noises, then it can be very hard. I think everyone having their own space is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic. And we've now got a shed as well, and it's big enough that now my husband has somewhere to escape to. So yeah, everyone needs their own space. You need to be able to close the door sometimes and say, just leave me alone. I need to decompress, you know.
Totally. I mean, that's important for any family. Like, own space. I mean, that was the thing. For lockdown, it was like, oh my God, I had no space, nowhere. You know what I mean? It was just like everybody was in the house all the time.
Yeah,
So, you know,
and we're just so lucky we have a nice garden, and that's a huge thing as well. So we potter around in the garden, and you know, it's just nice. But yeah, everyone, it can be very chaotic sometimes, and meal times can be very chaotic because everyone is a picky eater. We all eat different things, and the kids eat complete opposite food sometimes. So I have one or two dishes that we all like, but besides that, it's always like cooking 3 meals every night.
Same in our house. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, they don't realize, like, autistic mothers, I mean, sure, there's a lot of stuff out there about autistic children, and even now about older people and adults and this and that, but I think mothers or parents who are autistic do have a different category, because they're kind of like, they're supposed to be in charge of people, they're supposed to be responsible. Well, I think we need a lot of support, and we don't necessarily get it, you know, so
yeah,
it can be very tough sometimes too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, autistic mothers are going to be saying, all of us have, you know, anxieties and trauma, and same as the rest of the population of autistic people. And yeah, you're trying to be a parent on top of all of that.
Yeah, and then you're saying, I don't want to make the same mistakes my parents did. So you're like, but now I can understand my mom a bit better. You know, now I can go, oh right, that thing she was doing was a meltdown. I see.
I tried to do the opposite nearly of my parents, which is
I'm like, oh right, so her biting her nails until there are literally no nails left. Oh right, that's her stim. I get it now. Or I get, oh right, my mom actually had loads of medical issues that I never appreciated at the time. Or okay, she had a lot of trauma as well. And yeah, so now I do appreciate her a lot better. But it's like, but I don't want to pass the traumas on. I really don't. Like, you really need to sort of stop it and, you know, go, well, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to try and be calm and relaxed, and not let my issues affect my kids too much. And that can be very hard too.
It is very hard, because I know we talked about this before, but like, that is my goal. One of my goals as a parent is just like, try not to traumatize my child or minimize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But but I think, yes, finding out we're autistic, it gives us a huge understanding of our parents, because look, realistically, one or both are going to be autistic. That's kind of how it is. And our family life and stuff, and with that comes great kind of understanding and empathy and healing. And it brought me healing, I think. But yeah, it's
and also with my children knowing that I'm autistic, we're all very open about it. So that they know, they realize why I'm doing this or that, or if I'm extra stressed or tired, or if somewhere is too noisy or crowded, they understand as well. So you're not like they're not in complete shock about why am I acting the way I am. They're like, oh right, did you try like putting sunglasses on? Or something? You know, they'll come up with things, and I'll be like, oh, that's actually a really, really good idea, thanks, you know. And sometimes it can be something as simple as everything being too bright or too noisy, and something simple like sunglasses or headphones or something can make a huge difference, and you mightn't even think of it. You know, or else you might think, oh, that's just for children. Like, sure, I know all about autistic children needing headphones, but I forget that I might also need them as well. Like, so sometimes I'm like, can I
Totally.
borrow your headphones? Like,
Yeah, because it's always about like I'd be advising, here, this is what you can do for your kids. And I'm like, what about myself? I could do, and I've got like little earphones, what you call them,
yeah,
defenders, but
here,
small ones that,
but yeah,
like
yeah,
last year, and like I'm fine most of the time, but like going to before COVID, like going to a concert or something, I was like,
yeah,
oh, I'm so glad to have them because it just made the experience so much better.
yeah,
And yeah, we do forget about
yeah, and
ourselves.
then things like, so stim toys and stuff and those chewy things, and you're like, oh, they're for children, oh no, so I got, and I'm like, oh, actually they're really nice to squeeze when you're stressed or whatever. So
Yeah,
having an autistic family like that is great, because you can use strategies and things that you use for your children. You can go, oh, actually they work for me too. And then so it does make a big difference when you're in a big family of like all sorts of people who understand each other. It really,
totally.
really helps. It's so great. Like,
That's it. Because I mean, imagine if you're in the family and, well, people think you're the only autistic in the family.
mm,
Probably not really. But it's all about that child or that person.
yeah,
Instead of
yeah,
kind of actually going, there's got to be a few more of us. Come on, let's see what we
yeah,
and
exactly. You
yeah.
know? And
And
then, yeah, and then, near pretty much all my friends are autistic as well. And that's brilliant too. So so when we get together sometimes, and it's just completely natural and normal, and it's like our own little culture, and we forget about everyone else, and who cares if anyone's looking or staring. We don't even notice. And we
yeah,
might go to the park or a cafe or somewhere, and we're just acting normally, autistically normal. And it's brilliant. It is so good. And my children now have autistic friends too, and it's made such a difference.
oh,
So I
brilliant.
think everyone just hanging out together, if you have a whole group of like-minded people, it just makes all the difference.
Totally. And would you find you were kind of like more, I can't say more autistic, because you're kind of more openly autistic
Yeah.
when you're with
Yes,
autistic people? Yeah.
definitely. I'm masking a lot less. I'm more relaxed. I mean, sometimes I might still have it at the back of my mind, like, oh dear, I better not scream out loud right now or something, in public. But especially like a few friends came over to the garden, during lockdown and stuff, and that was completely lovely. Like, it was just nice, and because we have like high walls and stuff around, we're complete privacy, and we were just ourselves, and it was great. It was really, really great.
Brilliant. That's lovely. That sounds like heaven.
Yeah.
But and how, like, for what's it meant for you, kind of connecting with other autistic people? Because for me, it was like a huge. It's huge. Sure, I mean, like most of the people I talk to regularly,
Yeah.
I know autistic. I obviously have
Well,
friends
I,
before,
I have
but
to say, when I went down to the Autism conference in 2019, and then I was on a high afterwards, and my husband picked up on it. He says, there's two words for what that conference did to you. And he goes, life changing. And
brilliant.
that was it, completely life changing, because I'd never really experienced that before. I never experienced a room with hundreds of people who get me.
Yeah,
It's never happened. Other people have that experience. Like, normally, if you go to to school or work or some social event and everyone else is like yourself, you experience that. But I never had experienced that before in my life. A room where everyone got me. It wasn't just my family. It wasn't just my parents and my siblings, and it
yeah,
wasn't just 4 or 5 people. It was hundreds. And
yeah.
I've never experienced that before. It is life changing. It's brilliant.
Oh, it's fantastic to hear. But I mean, yeah, I remember, like, we had a meetup for people who maybe weren't there watching this. We had a meetup the night before for autistic adults, so no idea how many people would come to it. But it ended up, I think it was like 50 or 60
Yeah.
people with a lovely library room in the hotel. But then people went, and some people sat outside as well. And I just remember at one point just looking around the room, just so happy that
Yeah.
like people who didn't know each other were connecting. It was just all very, very lovely.
Everyone was just chatting, and
Yeah.
we had no social problems and no communication problems.
Yeah.
And then some people found it a bit much and went outside to sit and cool down and stuff, and then they came back, it was just really relaxed, and just chatting away. It was wonderful. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
And but another thing is, like, for example, no awkward silences. Like, you can sit in a room with someone else and you're both quiet, and you're not both thinking, oh no, I better be saying something now. What'll I say to fill the silence? You can
Yeah.
just hang out and just be yourself, and it's just wonderful. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel that's what any of us need, is just a space, well, more spaces to be ourselves, because I think that's definitely what autistics need, is just more space. Just,
and I do think, the first thing you should, like, if your child is diagnosed or you realize you're autistic or this or that, try and find other autistic people. That's the first thing. They should forget about all the social skills training and this and that and all the other therapies and courses. And maybe down the line you might find you need something like that and might help. The first thing people should do is be put in touch with autistic people, because that's what's actually made the difference in my life.
Oh, I always say it because it's been huge for me, and I can't imagine what it would have been like to get a diagnosis or find out I was autistic, and then that was just it.
Yeah, I mean, without the internet, if the internet hadn't existed, I mean, if 10 years ago even, but especially like 20 years ago or something, how do you find other people? Although I do realize now that a lot of friends I made in university or school or this or that probably were neurodivergent. Like, it's like, oh, right, I totally understand this person now in hindsight,
Absolutely.
You do find each other, but that's only one or two people. But having hundreds of people who understand what you're talking about is amazing.
It is. Really is. Yeah. So, just the atmosphere on the day was just so fantastic.
Yeah.
It was.
It was magical. It really was,
Magical is probably the word for it, because it was just, people were so excited about it. Like that, people were so excited to be there. I think for parents, it was amazing for them to come into a room where there was just autistic people here, just randomly around the place.
And people sitting on the floor, sitting and stuff, and it was just normal. It wasn't like a big deal, you were encouraged to get up and move around. And in the silent room was the best one of those rooms I've ever been in, because normally sensory rooms are all full of flashing lights.
No.
And it's like not calm at all, but this was completely, and I love the fact that it was not just a quiet room, it was silent.
Well, I thought a quiet room would be a bit ambiguous.
Too much whispering. I don't like it when you go into these rooms and everyone's whispering. Sometimes whispering can be worse than loud talking.
Yeah, really distracting. I was like, well, quiet, what does quiet mean? How quiet is quiet? It's way too ambiguous. So I was like, silent. Yeah, it was.
Silent was perfect. Yeah, And then again, I think the fact that, you meet it. So because the stereotype, as we all know, is the autistic man. Yeah. But when you do go into somewhere and you realize that the gender ratios are completely different, and there's such a mix of genders, and you're like, oh wow, it's not just a stereotypical white aspie man at a conference or something, because a lot of conferences can be very male orientated and stuff. But when you go in somewhere and the audience is just a whole mix of genders and personalities and hairstyles and clothes and just everything, it's lovely to see a big diverse bunch like that, it really is.
And speakers, it was like speakers. It was just like
they were. That was brilliant too, and that's what we need to see more of. Is just a whole bunch of different people, so you not just all have this image of what autism is all your life. Like I say, I thought it was people like my cousin, and no, yes, of course it is. It's people like him, but it's also so much more, so many more people.
And that's why, I mean, I don't really, obviously I have to use the word autism because people don't know it, but like I talk about autistics or autistic people because it kind of shifts the idea of this thing called autism, that it's a fixed one thing, whereas if you talk about autistic people, it's like you're talking about a community, about a bunch of people, and we're all different. So that's just the same as any other bunch of people.
Exactly. That's all it is. We're just the same as other people, but we have differences too. But we have, but you need to remember that we're people. That's the very bottom line is we are people. We have there's female autistic people, male, non-binary, all sorts of different things. The same way there is in everywhere, in all societies, in all communities. So
this is it. Like there's non-speaking people in all communities as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's all non-speaking people everywhere in that babies don't speak, do they?
That's true. That's true.
Until they start speaking, like they're all non-speaking, So it's like, I don't know, when my kids were babies, there was all that's fad for baby sign language and stuff. And that was seen as a normal thing, like, oh yeah, teach your baby sign language. But then when an autistic person isn't speaking, they don't just not go teach the autistic person sign language.
No,
So
because there's an
baby sign
idea.
language for middle class mommies is fine. But sign language should be something that's fine for everyone. Everyone should learn it, I think.
I
You
know,
know?
but it goes back to that idea that autistic people are incompetent or unintelligent or can't learn, so wouldn't be able to learn. Now, some people would have difficulty with if they have dyspraxia or something like that, but not everybody. And there's all other types of
There's
people.
all other kinds of ways of speaking as well. Well, not speaking, but communicating. You know, there's so many different ways. I mean, like I like writing. I was explaining this. I was saying to my husband, maybe I should start leaving notes around the house.
Yeah.
Or giving him notes, because you know I'm much clearer, and there's no misunderstandings if I write things down, or if I say something he might forget or think I said something different, or you know. So so I think I'll do that. And with the kids, like we text each other.
Yeah.
Like I'll be upstairs and they'll be downstairs and they want something, and then they'll text and I say, well, what do you want? And then they'll explain what they want, and then, you know, it's so much easier than going up and down the stairs.
But I mean, there are days here. I mean, like I'm talking to you now, and I had like a 2-hour meeting on Zoom earlier. I'm like, that's it. That's me done talking now for the day. I will be like just emailing or texting. Like, that's it. And some days I just don't do me. I'm like, no, I'm not able for like phone calls or meetings or anything today. Yeah, you know. And we all use different ways of communicating anyway. Like.
Exactly, you know. So it's good to have an option. It's good that you know that there's an option. You go, oh, right. So I can actually text people who are in the same room as me. That's fine.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You know,
yeah,
it's brilliant, you know. So you don't think, oh, no, I better not do that because it's not socially appropriate to do that. And it's like, no, they're my kids. I can do what I want.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
they want
you decide what's socially appropriate. It's your house.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's fantastic, you know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I think that's important for people as well to just realize, because sometimes it comes up with adults as well, just going, oh, I never thought of like that I could use alternative ways of communicating, like in stressful situations, like I was like doctors' offices or hospitals, things are just stressful. If you just had another way to communicate, you know, it would just make it easier as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to say, you know, for example, with the doctor now, the whole telehealth, the whole fact that I don't have to go into the doctors. Or some places now they do online appointment bookings and stuff, so you don't need to phone somewhere for an appointment. You can just book it online and stuff. I hope that kind of stuff stays, because it's just so much easier. It really is so much easier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know why we always had to ring our doctors to make appointments here up until very recently. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even when I was doing the conference, that's 2 years ago, I was looking at, I wanted to like email doctor's office to let them know about it. I was just looking up all these surgeries and like they don't have phone numbers.
No email. Yeah.
No email.
I know.
You know?
I know.
So, yeah, I remember thinking that at the time. I was going, what about people who like find it difficult to make phone calls and stuff like that? Yeah. So I think COVID will actually is making things way more accessible. It's just driving.
Yeah, and I think people, and also it's helped people realize that they can work from home, or they can have virtual conferences, or they can, you know, socialize with their friends online, and it's not become like this niche thing that only a few people do. It's like
not just for the autistics.
Exactly. It's become more normalized. And I think also with the younger generation texting each other all the time, that's become much more normalized than phone calls were in our time. Like people text each other and that's it. Like it's great, you know.
In our time, we didn't have phones, Melissa.
I don't mean Mo. I mean sitting around in the hall of the house waiting for someone to ring.
Yeah, in the hall. I was thinking about that recently. I was like, why was the phone always in the hall?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? We had one of those seats, you know, those seats with the phone, and you put the phone down beside it, and the dial phone.
Yeah,
and then the phone book beside it.
That was it, the phone book, and then
the phone book.
The home would always be freezing cold.
Yeah, but of course I'd be the one sitting in the hall reading the phone book. Every year, big excitement when a new phone book come. I'd sit and read it from A to Z.
Would you really? I've never read a phone book.
Well, the first thing I do is find our surname, because we had a very unusual one, and then I go through every single other one and look up all my friends, see did they change their numbers, which obviously they didn't. And then I start with A, and I would be like, I wonder how many people with this surname live in Ireland, and I'd count how many McDonald's there were.
Oh, I did that kind of thing. I remember, looking through like, and where they lived and stuff like,
Yeah, where I'd start at A and I'd go, and I wonder how many foreigners, and this and that. It was just brilliant.
Yeah.
The ways we entertained ourselves, eh?
I know, but it was so much fun. We had to.
Yeah, exactly. But again, my mom thought it was perfectly normal to read a phone book from cover to cover, like, why wouldn't you, like?
So this is it, because like in my house, like I used to get headaches in school from the fluorescent lights and the screens and stuff, or the light off the TV, or the blackboard and whiteboard and stuff. And the color blue, because we had like a blue bathroom when we were kids. I like the color, a dark blue color. I get headaches from that, obviously, because that's light. But it was just normal. Like, it was just like, oh, Evaleen gets headaches from, and blue makes her feel dizzy and so. And it was like as if that was no one. That was just a normal thing. Do you know what I mean? It was like that's Evaleen's thing.
So I think that maybe autistic people, that we always have had our communities, but they used to be just one family, or in a town they'd be like one little group. And that would be it. So the internet has opened it up now. So it's not just one family anymore. And you can compare notes and you can go, oh, right, we did that too. Or if someone is getting headaches, you can go, oh, well, is your bathroom blue? Then, maybe you should paint it a different color. That might help. Things that you wouldn't think of on your own. Like, it's brilliant. The support you get from other autistic people, and the way you can pick their brains. Like, you can say, oh, I have this issue. And then other people, or you can say which headphones are the best. That's always a big one, or
people have like amazing tips, tips.
So that's fantastic. Like, it's made so much of a difference, because you have a problem, and then you try and then you read all the non-autistic parenting books and the this and that, and you look through all the tips and you're like, none of this applies, none of this will work. It's good.
Eating is such a
the picky eating ones, where they
try
and try and trick your kids to eat vegetables.
Yeah, it's like,
as if your child couldn't taste the one atom of a vegetable in whatever it is. Like,
I can smell it like across the room while there's
exactly. So so it's nice to have autistic specific places and communities, and you can just share tips and have a better life, basically.
But it goes back to what you said at the beginning about like just normal autistic things as well, because sometimes people are looking for solutions to things that just aren't problems, like eating the same thing or not trying that's not a problem. If you just actually accept that, it's totally fine. There's no issue. You just work around it and you just give the child what to eat.
Exactly. Exactly. Or you cook 3 meals like I do.
Totally. That's the same. There's
it's tiring, but it's also
that we can
make sure none of the foods touch. That kind of thing, and that's fine. That's brilliant. Like, and you do it for your kids, you're like, that's perfectly fine.
Organization, that's it. Just
exactly. And you just accept it, or you find the 1 or 2 dishes that you all like,
that's hard to do in our house. We don't.
Also, people change. Like, my son was convinced he hated ketchup, and all his life he never tasted ketchup. And then one day he decided, oh, I'll try some ketchup, and he actually likes it. So now he, so now he has
everything.
So also taste change. Like, he used to not like spaghetti bolognese, and now it is one of the 2 dishes we all like. And so his taste also changed, but there was no pressure. I think that's the main thing, is he changed by himself.
I think that's the key.
He grew up a bit and he decided himself he wanted to try something.
Because if you add pressure, it just makes me a time stressful, and then it just backfires.
So he just said, oh, can I try that? And I'm like, okay, if you want to, go ahead. And then he's like, oh, it's not too bad actually. And then there you go. But if you put the pressure on, then it won't work.
Did you not get a tray, Melissa, from start to finish? Give him
we did. We start when we were younger. I feel bad now. We did all the sticker charts and stuff, because you read I read every single parenting book, because that's what I do. I got a bit obsessed with parenting books, and they're all going on about super nanny and this and that, and then all the sticker charts and this and that, and none of it ever worked.
But this not even one bit. This is the thing, though, with all these kind of guides for people, whether it's parenting or pregnancy or building a house or whatever. For every book you read, there's going to be contradictory stuff in this book. They're all contradicting each other. It's just all these different opinions.
Well, that's why, Yeah, that's why I'm actually writing a book, and my book is going to be specifically for autistic people, but it's going to be kind of a mishmash of parenting guide, self-help, life hacks, that kind of thing, and basically problem solving. You know, what do you do when you can't sleep, or have you tried this when you don't eat very much, or do you have problems talking to your doctor, or this or that, you know? But it's from an autistic point of view, because I'm so sick of reading self-help books and parenting books, and you read them all and you go, none of this is relevant to me, you know, none of it is relevant. And again, with the sleep thing, like, maybe this problem isn't sleep. Maybe the problem is you need a job that will allow you to sleep at strange hours. Maybe you need to be self-employed.
That's so true.
You know, maybe you work best at 4 a.m. Maybe you need a job that will help you, or maybe something that's like in a different time zone or something, you know? Maybe that's not the problem, isn't that you can't sleep. The problem is your sleeping isn't matching society's expectation of you sleeping. That kind of stuff. You won't read that in a normal book.
No, you definitely won't read that.
You know?
Yeah.
You won't read in a book where it's all about how to train yourself to sleep and this and that and sleep hygiene and this and that. It doesn't say change your job. Maybe that.
Yeah, try that. That's like,
you know?
Yeah.
And people mightn't think of that, but because I was talking to so many autistic people who do they sleep between 4 a.m. and like 10 or something.
Yeah.
And that seems to be perfectly normal time to sleep for a lot of people. Like, that's just a very different thing that you don't realize until you talk to people.
Yeah, because whenever I'm up late, I'm kind of in bed now for 11. I think this change, but there's always autistic people online in the same time zone.
Exactly.
Go to sleep. Yeah.
You know, and some people, like, they have a 4-hour nap in the daytime, and then they sleep 4 hours in the nighttime, so they do 2 times 4 hours, and that's normal for them. And it's like there's so many different options. So if you have this thing in your head that I must sleep between, I don't know, whatever, 10 and whatever, you know, whatever the normal time is supposed to be, I don't even know what that is. But if you have this thing in your head as I must sleep at this certain time, and then you don't fall asleep, and you feel like some kind of failure, and you have all these sleep therapies and sleep and this and that.
Yeah,
you're stressing about it. Well, maybe you think, well, maybe you're not supposed to sleep at that time. Maybe that's your natural waking time, you know, and maybe you should try and adapt your life if you can. Obviously, not everyone can just go out and get a new job that suits them, but maybe you can think about it. Maybe it can be a thing in your head, you know, a thought for later.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe a lot of people are self-employed, you know, that's another thing, like yourself. I mean, a lot of people don't work in typical workplaces, you know, and that seems to be a hugely common thing too. And maybe that's the way you get around all the different hours or social issues, or people wanting to be your own boss, or hierarchies. Or
like, for me, I finished college and started working for myself. I remember just like, I think it was one of my sisters was like, you know, most people finish college and they get a job, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm not most people.
Exactly.
Went off doing my own thing, but I knew, I mean, I had worked in you know, retail and stuff, going to college and stuff, but like, I think I just knew it wasn't for me. I think I would be incredibly bored as well, going to the same place every day, doing the same thing. I just was like, you know, so yeah, I kind of just set up my own little world. It was and it's worked.
But at least you knew that would suit you. But some people, it might suit and they don't even think about it. They don't even realize it's an option, you know. And so I do think them talking to other people or reading about it and then going, oh wow, you know, maybe self-employment would work better, you know. And
I'm hoping to do something maybe winter or next year for autistic people who want to set up their business.
That's a good idea.
Sometimes
it's a very good idea.
You know, and dealing with just people and all the things that go with it.
And sometimes, you don't know where to start. You might not know where to start, and there might be like,
I've made all the mistakes, so I can tell people about them.
Exactly, Eveleen's course of what not to do.
That's actually what it would be. It'd be like, here's what not to do. And then I just save them from all the hassle. But that's how I learn stuff, just I'm making loads of mistakes. But before we go, Melissa, tell me about your book, which I know I actually just remembered I need to send you something for that one time. Which I will do. I just wrote it down there. I'm like, it's gonna wait. It's for the emails probably gone down to here now. So tell us, have you got a name for it yet? What's the story with it? When will we see it?
Not really, but there's a I don't know how to describe it, but yes, it's a combination of parenting books, self-help. It's from basically cradle to grave kind of book. So I'm not writing a book for children. or about children or about adults, or, I want to do it so it helps parents of young children, it helps parents of teenagers, it helps the teenagers themselves. It helps anyone who can read, like, and an autistic adults, but also I think old age and autism gets left out all the time. So, how do you get help if you're an autistic person and you're aging?
And women in menopause, I think, seems to be a big one that there's a big gap.
Exactly. So it's things like,
Did you write that book? I'll be needing that.
I've written a chapter on sleep. So what I do is I pick a lot of autistic people's brains and say, so do you have sleep issues? And what do you do? What do you find helps you with them? And there's a whole list of stuff. So then there'll be obviously ones on food and personal hygiene, housework, work, school, all the stuff, like all the major life things,
like life
and just
hacks,
what are your problems and what advice would you give to someone, because that's what a lot of people need, is life hacks and tips for themselves or their children. Practical. That's it. It is. And I've read a lot of the scientific papers and the science behind it, but a lot of that is jargon and it's really hard to understand. So I want to be able to translate all the jargon into easy understandable language and say, you have this problem, this is how it looks like for autistic people, this is what they say helps, you might try it, and then, oh, what about this option or that option? And then I want to get quotes from other people as well, like yourself. And so I'll have it sprinkled. It's not just my opinion. It's not just about what I think works. It's about getting a whole range of answers, as many different voices as possible. And so you can hear what works for a lot of people, so that's basically it.
That's so autistic, isn't it? To have a collaborative thing.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm enjoying the best. I'm enjoying reading everyone's answers and going, oh, I hadn't actually thought of that. Like for the sleep one, a lot of people find comfort in sleeping with their pets. Now I would never think of that because I just couldn't do that. But it does help some people. And, so they'll be like, oh, right. So if you want company, but you don't want to sleep with a human because they snore or you don't like them or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't like other people, but maybe your cat or your dog or something, or even maybe your stuffed teddy bear, which is fine for adults too. Some people need something to cuddle when they're sleeping, and that helps them, and that's wonderful. And there's things that I personally hadn't thought about, and then I asked people, and then I got brilliant feedback, and that kind of tips like that basically.
That sounds amazing. That sounds fantastic. I can't wait. So you haven't got a name for it yet? But
not really, no. I'm still very much at the research stage here, and just at the beginning stages. So it'll take. I'd say it'll take about a year in all to get it fully written, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing. So when it is ready, we might do another interview. Have you back on?
Yeah.
Tell us all about it, because I'm sure everyone will be like, this book sounds fantastic. But that's exactly what's needed. This practical advice, because people don't need theory. Look, some people like that stuff too, but it's really how to get through the day and not get through the day, but like enhance your life, enjoy your life.
And not everyone likes getting out all their information online, or not everyone likes Twitter or Facebook or this or that. Some people want a book.
Yeah.
So I want to get all the lovely advice and help and support I've gotten over the years that I've gotten online, and I want to compile them into a book.
Yeah, because when you think about like all the information that has been put out there over the past, 2 decades, let's say, even of the internet, from autistic people to other autistic people and to parents and stuff, there must just be volumes.
Well, yeah, it might be just more than one book in the end, but I think at the moment I'll be keeping it short enough, because I don't like books that are really, really, really big either. So it won't be too hard to read, because I think that's the point, is I want it easy to read. I don't want some big tome or some like academic book. I want something that everyone can read and understand. It's just something simple and easy, and that might hopefully help some people. Basically.
That sounds amazing. Brilliant. Well, Melissa, we'll definitely have you back when that book is out on the shelf. We might have my copy here. Look forward to it.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks, Melissa.